Hi guys, welcome back to Her Career, Her Way, a podcast all about inspiring ambitious individuals by giving them the strategies, tools, and having honest conversations to help you navigate one's career in their 20s, which is very chaotic, and as a 20-something-year-old, I definitely have empathy. So welcome to the new year. It is 2026, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, I feel like it was just 2024, 2020 last year. I mean, it's crazy how fast time goes by. And I feel like the new year is one of those moments that can feel so motivational, so inspiring, so fresh. You want to reset, you want to transform, you want to move on and leave everything behind. And I think it also can be very overwhelming and have a lot of pressure to achieve something big at the next year, to prove something to other people or whatever it might be. And I kind of want to understand and talk about in this episode about uncertainty and feeling enough. I've definitely done an episode about not feeling like you're enough in the first episode actually, and so definitely check that out. But I really want to talk about uncertainty and how there's a lot of fear surrounding it. And it's why we honestly stay in our habits and stay stuck, but why uncertainty can actually be leveraged as an advantage, and the psychology and science behind it, and then also giving some actionable tools at the end. So let's get into it. There's a huge pain point of feeling not enough, and I have definitely felt that. And I feel like there's this gap of where you have these ambitions and these dreams that you want to achieve, but you're not there yet. And that is really hard. This gap is really hard. It's a complex feeling because you have so many things that you want to achieve. You have such clear vision, but you're just not there yet. And it takes time, to be honest. Not everything is built overnight. Rome wasn't built overnight. And how you can feel content in the progress and not being tied to that outcome at the end. And so some things that I've been feeling is that I've been feeling a little bit behind. Maybe you are feeling like you're not proud. You have nothing to prove that you're proud of. And it's because you haven't achieved those big goals yet that you feel like you're not doing enough, you're not good enough, you're not there yet, you're not confident. It really diminishes your confidence when you feel like you haven't achieved something. And it's also that feeling of, are you on the right path? Is what you're doing right now leading you to where you want to go? And I know I talk a lot about being intentional and aligned with every single thing that you're doing. And to be honest, some things may not look like they're helping you onto that big path. You might be thinking you're taking a course, like I'm taking marketing courses, but I don't want to do marketing in the future. So what am I doing? How is that really being aligned to where I want to go? Well, this is the thing. Just because you're in a major and just because you're taking a course, just because you have a job, doesn't mean that these aren't learning opportunities for whatever you're going to do in the future, even if it's not that exact thing. Just because I'm taking a marketing course, it doesn't mean that I have to go into marketing. That isn't even my big dream, But what marketing teaches me is how to connect with consumers, how to leverage this knowledge, understand how to use data to influence people, understanding that marketing can be a tool to make a social impact. I think the main things about this is knowing that every single thing that you're doing can be a learning opportunity for where you want to go, even if it isn't exactly tied to the thing that you want to achieve. So I think the main thing is that progress is not linear, and every single step forward, honestly, probably adds a step backwards, 3 steps backwards. And they're all just data points for learning. And these data points could be used for growth. And you decide what is enough. And reframing what is enough, I think, can be really helpful. And I'll get more into that later. But I just wanted to give a short example of kind of looking at like Google Maps, of when you have a map, you put in your destination. I want to go there. Just like a goal. I want to achieve this. And then let's say you take a wrong turn. I know I do. I'm very directionally challenged. And I feel like this is not only in directions, but probably in life as well. I was just on a skiing trip and we had a physical map, and I was looking at the wrong side of the mountain half the time. So, to say the least, very directionally challenged. But the important thing about this is that every single wrong turn, every single time I went down the wrong course or whatever, it doesn't mean it's a failure. What Google Maps does is that it recalculates. It gives you another instruction to lead you where you're going. And that's kind of how life is. Just because you take the wrong turn, or just because you do a different step than society has outlined for you, doesn't mean that you can't reach that destination in the end. It just feeds that information into the program, and then it recalculates and sends you on a different path to where you need to go. That is absolutely okay. Maybe it's a better path. Maybe there was less traffic. Maybe there was an accident on the road that you were going to go down on. And so thinking about your life like Google Maps and how each little misstep or wrong turn doesn't mean that it erases your whole direction where you want to go. It just gives you new information to transform and grow from there and learn from those experiences as well. And so now I kind of want to go into the science behind why figuring it out feels so hard, why being in the progress of doing something is so overwhelming. Sometimes it affects your confidence. You don't feel so confident when you're in the progress and you're like, why aren't I here yet? Especially if somebody else has gotten there so much faster than you. Or why sometimes when people say, yeah, but you have time to figure it out, but you want it now. So I definitely understand this. It is very hard to sometimes sit and wait and be patient. Patience is such a difficult skill to learn and to practice. So I definitely understand. But I was reading a research article by Rebecca Bridger. She is a psychologist on cognitive remeditation therapy, I think that's how you pronounce it, CRT. And she was talking about the brain and how it's wired to seek novelty. Our brains are wired to get that novelty so then we can keep on getting evidence to find new things. I mean, in our survival days, we would constantly look for new ways to do things more efficiently, do things better so that we could survive. And those people that had those skills, those new skills, would then survive and pass it down to their offsprings. And this is survival of the fittest. Whoever was the fittest in terms of just how they were born genetically, that helped them adapt to that environment or whatever it was, or skill set that helped them survive, so they would pass it down. And as humans, we have a killer instinct. We are animals at our core. And we have these survival instincts that are so strong that seeks out these things like novelty so that we can be better, so we can be more efficient, and so we can survive as a race. And what happens is that each time we get a new thing, our dopamine spikes. And every single time our dopamine spikes, it actually resets our baseline, which means every single time we, buy a new outfit or something and we get this high and we get addicted sometimes or whatever, our baseline doesn't return to the same place as it was before. It's actually elevated slightly. So then the next time you go out and buy a dress, you don't feel that same satisfaction as you did the first time. You need something more. You need 2 dresses just to feel that same level of satisfaction. And this leads into the cycle of constantly needing more, chasing more praise, chasing more external validation, chasing whatever it is, just to have that same level of satisfaction. And so then the rewards change and the unexpected gains keep on getting higher and higher and higher to reach that same level. And so this is where it's really important to, one, have intentional gratitude practices in your existing relationships, because this, I don't know, I feel like it calms the nervous system down a little bit because it reminds you of the satisfaction that you have for the things now in the present. It helps lower that baseline of satisfaction so that you are grateful for what you have and the potential. And I've talked about this before, of having gratitude for the potential, not only being grateful for the things you have, but grateful for the things that you are going to do and who you are going to become. I think is really important. And I think it's so beautiful to just have that mindset because things are coming for you. Just because you can't see it right now doesn't mean that they aren't going to happen. And being grateful for that. And basically what it is every single time you have an accomplishment, your satisfaction alters. And so, for example, you get a promotion and then 2 weeks later, you want more. And culture glorifies this outer self in a way. It glorifies having things that are visible and tangible, like titles, incomes, achievements, whatever it might be. I think you can get trapped on that treadmill. Like you keep on wanting more. You're chasing every single thing. And that is called hedonic adaptation. And also I feel like something that's happened, and somebody told me about how ambition has changed. And I think this is due to the choice overload. And I've definitely talked about this before, but I kind of want to go in deeper towards it, and that the choice overload not only overwhelms you because you have so many choices at hand, such as jobs, occupations. I mean, now we have freelancing, you can work remotely, you can work hybrid, you can work in the office. There isn't also a set trajectory anymore. I mean, a lot of people are taking gap years, which I think is amazing, and just figuring out who they are. But then also, just because you have graduated from something doesn't mean that you have to stick into that job. Just because you are a business student doesn't mean that you have to work in business. Just because you did a dance degree doesn't mean you have to be a dancer. Just because you did English literature doesn't mean that you have to be an author or a teacher. You can go into psychology, you can be a lawyer, you can go into finance. It doesn't matter anymore. There is no set trajectory. And while that is so amazing, and so many people are doing different things as well, not just one job or one occupation, it can also feel really jarring. And this is where it raises the opportunity cost. And that you're thinking, just because I'm doing this, that I'm losing out on this. Or because I chose this outcome and occupation, now it means I can't do this. Somebody with multiple passions, I definitely understand this. I mean, there's so many things that I want to do, but again, I don't have the bandwidth to do all of them at this moment. And that is okay, because I know in the future, maybe an opportunity will arise and I can do that. There is so much time to do things. And yes, I say time is finite, but in our life, I feel like we are constantly adapting and learning, and that's what makes us human, and that's what makes this such a beautiful journey, and that you never know what can come. And I truly believe if you have a passion for something or multiple things, you will end up doing it in your lifetime, maybe just not right now. And that's where the maximizing. And before I go into another concept, I just want to quickly finish up with an example and a study shown that when somebody was presented with 24 jam options, they honestly couldn't pick one. But the ones that were presented with less options were able to make a better choice and feel satisfied about it, because there was less on the table and there's less feeling that they were missing out on something. And this is where kind of the maximizing mindset comes in. When you want to make the perfect choice, the perfect decision, the perfect outcome, the perfect goal, and that leads to feeling actually more dissatisfied when you choose it. So for example, you want to buy a coat or something, and you want it to be the perfect coat. You have so many descriptions of it. You want it to be high collared. You want it to have buttons. You want it to have a tie thingy. I forget what it's called. You want it to be long. You want it to be structured. And it's good to be specific. And I'm not saying that you should lower your desires for what you want, but also this can delay the actual buying of it. And it can actually increase that dissatisfaction when you buy something that you don't really exactly want. You keep on continually looking for the perfect job, and you keep on wanting more information about it. And just like this constant comparison loop to find something perfect that isn't actually there, that actually leads to more regret and dissatisfaction. And so I wanted to bring this up because sometimes it's better to just stop looking at things, stop trying to find the perfect thing, and just start acting. Because when you kind of simplify it down, I think that's where you can understand what it is you actually want and not just what the perfect thing actually looks like. And understand, is what you're seeking for growth, Or is it just novelty? Because novelty seeking, I feel like you can then go down the route of, I constantly need something new. I constantly need a new hobby, a new thing to look impressive. Whereas if it's feeding growth, it's looking at, oh, what am I learning? What are the opportunities? What can happen from this? And it feels more inspiring than constantly seeking out that external thing. And this is where I want to go into another topic, which was by Richard Lowenthal, his framework, and he is a mental health counselor, and he talks about inner and outer growth. And I feel like as humans, growth is so important, and I talk about just growing all the time and how important it is to not stay stagnant. But what he talks about is that there is outer growth and there is inner growth. And outer growth is very limited and restrictive. It is also conditional. It is things like a job title or reaching a certain salary or having a certain occupation and rejection with that. And I feel like when you are only tied to your outer growth, when a rejection happens, it is so hard because you didn't get what you needed. There's nothing internal about it. You were just seeking out these external things. So when you don't achieve it, you feel like everything's lost. And that can be really challenging. Believe me, rejection is not easy. And I've definitely had my fair share of it. I'm sure many of you have, and I'd love to do another episode about it. And I kind of talked about it in my last episode about how it's really tied to identity as well. But I think the real reason why rejection can feel so hard is because it was tied to an external thing, whereas the inner growth is more infinite and expansive. And this is the learning, the self-awareness, and identity formation. And I really truly believe that confidence is built from self-belief, of having that knowledge and that feeling that everything is okay. That's how you know that you're coming from a place of inner growth. So for example, you apply for a job and one person gets the job. That's the outer growth. And I'm not saying outer growth is inherently bad. I think it's important to have both. But the inner growth is when the other person gets rejected and then they realize I can apply for a different job and I can use this learning to be better in my next job, or maybe I didn't even like that industry or something like that. It's a redirection. Rejection is really a redirection, and it's transformative because you're learning from that setback. And I feel like inner growth is really the anchor, the foundation, and outer growth is the byproduct of what happens when you have that inner growth. And I also feel like we can get caught in this endless accumulation where we consistently want to collect information. We want to have more knowledge. We want to fuel ourselves even more. And it becomes honestly addictive. I mean, I can't count the ways that I have felt like I needed more and more things, like I needed more novelty. And that's, again, the novelty seeking behavior. And sometimes when I'm even researching these psychological concepts, it's like, I want more. I want to understand more. And humans are like that. We want to understand every single thing. And this is where the uncertainty comes from, because we are so wired to not wanting to be in the unknown and having the uncertainty that we consistently crave more information. And that becomes so addictive and a little bit counterintuitive, because then we don't know what enough is. Our concept and idea of enough keeps on, like, it raises the bar higher and higher. Like, nothing is ever enough because we keep on wanting more and more and more and more. Where really we need to start reframing what enough is and being okay with not knowing everything. And also reframing uncertainty as a good thing rather than a bad thing. And so now I want to get into what I want to talk about, is that fear and uncertainty are the instigator. And I think they are so important to have in life. And I know it's so uncomfortable. It is so uncomfortable. But when you're in that discomfort, it honestly means that you're growing and something is coming and it's exciting. Because uncertainty is proof that you are expanding. When you have all the knowledge, when you have these memorized behaviors and actions, it's normally because you're in a place of familiarity. And that's comfortable. And there's nothing wrong about having familiar things. I mean, I love watching the same show over and over again. I like having my same coffee order, and there's nothing wrong about having those things. And I also think it's really important to have that added layer of uncertainty and being open to continuous learning. I feel like this is what the new year should be all about, is that, and honestly, it can happen at any time. It doesn't have to just be in the new year. It can be about a time of accepting change and accepting not knowing everything. And I think ambition itself to me is a sign of hope and possibility of what can happen and having that drive to get there. And being grateful that you want more. I mean, not feeling like you're enough or being in that state of uncertainty, I think is such a beautiful thing because it tells you that you are desiring something more. It tells you that you have passions and that you want to do something, and it makes that feeling of that you're alive. I mean, suspense really keeps you curious. I mean, if you knew the whole story of your life, how boring would that be? How boring would that be? So I think it's really important to have that little level of uncertainty and fear because it inspires you to go out and do that passion. Also, I think not having that end result immediately is really important because that helps you stay consistent. Because you know that to get there, you need to do these steps, these little incremental steps. And consistency proves that you care. Every single setback and every single time you get back up and do it again, that shows that you care about that thing that you're doing. And that's how you know that you're coming from a place of inner growth and intention, because no setback will really keep you down because you know what you want and you're so determined and ambitious and hopeful that you're going to get there that nothing and nobody can stop you. And so now I want to get into actionable steps of how to leverage this uncertainty and use it to your advantage. And I want to talk about expanding your metrics of success. And I think this is really important. And I actually learned this on my Nike run, one of the guided runs. Coach Bennett was talking about how every single run teaches you something. If it's a long run, it teaches you something. If it's a short run, it does as well. If it's a fartlek, it teaches you something. Intervals, whatever it might be, every single run teaches you something. If you had a goal set of running a 10K and you only ran 8K, that run still teaches you something. It teaches you maybe you were starting out too fast. Maybe you were starting out too slow. Maybe it was the weather. Maybe you didn't have a good night's sleep or you needed a little bit more fuel. Then on your next run, you can use that information to have a better one. And it also teaches you that you showed up. Every single run, you proved that you showed up for it, no matter if you achieved what you wanted or not. You showed up. And honestly, that's all that matters. Because when you give it your best and you show up and you do it, that shows that you are willing to do the hard work. And that is so important. And I think we should really have grace for that. And we should be proud of that and pat yourself on the back for just showing up because it is honestly the best thing that you can do. And every single time you do that, it moves you towards that goal. And this can also be used in a job application where you send out a cover letter or you have an interview, whatever it might be, and let's say you get rejected. Well, every single time you write that cover letter, you get better at writing one. Every single time you have an interview, you get better at it. You understand what your strengths are. You understand what your weaknesses are. You understand how important it is to research the company beforehand. You learn something each time you do this step, even if you get rejected. Because what you're doing is that you're practicing. And practice honestly makes perfect. I mean, there's this whole book where you become an expert after you do 10,000 hours at something. 10,000 hours. And so understanding that every single little thing is success because it's a learning point to get you to where you need to go. So I think that's really important to just reframe your mindset around what success is and don't always tie it to the outcome, but every single opportunity that you're doing. And then 2, I think, is having an inner growth check-in, weekly maybe, monthly if it's not that attainable, but asking yourself, what did I learn this week or month? What did I understand about myself? What did I handle better than I did last week? What drained me versus what energized me? And I do these little audit of the weeks on TikTok and just seeing what I learned this week or setting up just a little thing that I can do that week. And so one of mine from the week was having patience. And I think this is so fitting for this episode because it is so hard to be patient. And I think I talked about this very briefly in this episode, but it's like we always want to have this result and it's really hard to not have it yet. But being patient confirms to yourself that what you're doing and what you're seeking is aligned with what you want. Because if you just got everything the minute you thought about it, then you wouldn't feel like you earned it. And it wouldn't feel as satisfying and satiating as it would if you actually earned it. It calms your nervous system, one, and I also think patience helps you grow without that pressure. Patience is really that inner growth because you want to learn and you want to have these opportunities and you're not just tied to the external thing. That's how I kind of use my audit of the week. And then also with any setback, I think it's really important to debrief about it and understand it as a learning opportunity. I think one of my guests beforehand talked about winnings and learnings, and this is really, really poignant. Because every single setback, I think it's so important to ask yourself, what did this teach me? Was this something I even wanted in the first place? How do I feel now that I have this information? And how can I utilize that in the future with another experience? And how will I show up differently next time? And I think this is where we can use this to fill the gap of where we are now and where we want to be. Because how can you be so present in this moment and understand that where you are right now is absolutely fine? Right now, you are doing something so important. And it's so easy to look at the future and want more and want to get to that place. But once you arrive there, I swear it's not going to feel as good. You have to have that feeling of if you already had achieved that. Because any external thing can be taken away in an instant. And you need to feel content where you are right now without that thing. And when you get that thing, you need to feel content. And this is where I want to go into how to feel enough while you're figuring it out. And I absolutely understand this. I mean, it is so uncomfortable to be in the uncertain. And I have a lot of things that I'm still figuring out, as I'm sure many of you are, and a lot of my peers too, because it is my final year, as I've said. And that comes with a lot of novelty and uncertainty. Because I don't know what my next job will be. I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't know where I'm going to be living. And I'm sure a lot of graduates or people that are almost graduating feel like this. And also just this new year phenomenon of not knowing what this new year is going to bring. And that's really difficult. It's uncomfortable. But how to use that uncertainty as a motivator and an instigator and being comfortable in the progress. Make learning part of your identity. Understanding that learning can be such an important tool, and when you come from a place of curiosity, it can really help reframe that mindset around you're not doing something, you're not on the right path, there's nothing to be proud of. No, because you're coming from a place of inner growth. You're coming from a place of humility too, and you're using that to leverage you and to kind of catapult you to the next step. And when you reframe something, I think that is so powerful, and I think it helps reset that nervous system and helps reduce that stress. I feel like when you're coming from a place where you are really, really stressed and you're saying like, oh, I have nothing to feel proud of, or I'm not enough, or I haven't achieved X, Y, and Z, I feel like you're thinking about the wrong thing, to be honest. And we all kind of want to know that we're on the right path, whatever right is, and we want to have it all figured out, but honestly, that is so boring. I mean, it's so thrilling not to honestly know what's going to happen. I mean, that's why we love to watch movies, because it constantly keeps us hooked about what's going on. And that's how we should think about our lives. We don't know what's coming, and that's exciting because we get to figure it out. And then we tell the stories of it. I love to hear stories about how people have got together, how people have met, how people have gotten their jobs, because it's exciting to hear about how they came from one person to a next person, what they did to achieve that. And not so that I can copy it and mimic it step by step to reach there, but no, because it's inspiring. Your stories are inspiring. Your lives are inspiring. Every single learning that you have is inspiring because it's showing you that you have the courage to step into the unknown and do something incredible and not letting anything, any setback, any failure, any rejection stop you from where you're going. And that is what ambition is. And that is why uncertainty is such a powerful tool, because you are doing something that you don't know what the outcome is, but you're doing it because you have so much ambition, you have so much passion, you have so much work ethic and discipline, and you are consistent and you're showing up. And that proves that you're doing something for you, for your growth, for your life, and not for any external validation or for somebody else. And that is what fulfillment really looks like to me. And I think that is how you can feel enough while you're still figuring it out. So I hope this episode was really helpful. I know it was a little bit all over the place, but I really hope this resonated with you. And I know that the new year and that thinking of that you need to transform into somebody entirely different can feel really overwhelming. So really try to pull back and simplify, focus on 1 to 2 things that you want to do, and also really acknowledge that every single setback and failure in your mind is actually just a data point that you can recalculate and go from there. And really embrace that uncertainty in this new year and see what learnings you can get out of this year. I mean, I think that's what we should really be focusing on, is how many things can I learn? And really, really embracing the present moment and not always looking towards the future. Because the present is all we have now. Having so much gratitude for where we are right now and the potential of who we can be, that helps lower our nervous system so that we can act out of a place of intention and alignment. So definitely share this episode with a friend, a family member, whoever that might need to hear that and who has a lot of uncertainty going on in their life. Subscribe below, comment. I read every single comment, and let me know your thoughts so that I can learn as well, because this is what this community is all about. Thank you so much for listening. Happy 2026, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.